This is awesome.
Oh, Clark, hey. Good to see you among the living, man. Check it out. It's the latest talent mix.
Thanks, Pete.
Good to see you all among the living. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talon Mix. The Talon Mix, I have had a baby edition. It's week 3 of these. I'm Brian, here with Zach. This is much chiller than the usual show. Hi, Zach.
Hi.
So we're here in the past, recording so that we can take a couple weeks off in the future. That's that.
Yeah. I just had a thought when you played that opening. Is it weird that we're gonna have Pete be in our opening for he's for the next 6 seasons? He's not on the show.
No, I think it's good. I think it keeps Pete in our hearts is the thing.
Okay, great.
Even though he is long gone off Smallville, and you know what? He does just straight up say the name of our podcast.
Right, I was going to say, it's not like we have any other options. I don't think when they do like volume 2 of the Talon Mix, I don't think they have it in the episode.
Oh, I wish they would. I
know.
Because then we could refresh it. Zach, so when we're recording this, it's January. I am about a month away from my child being born. And what I'm realizing, so I'm having this thought of, my family has a bunch of my grandfather's letters that he wrote to his mom while he was in the military. Similarly, I was at my in-laws over the holidays, and they have her grandfather's journal. My grandmother kept a journal, and I've gotten to kind of look through that. And I'm very interested in these things we sort of leave behind of the people who came before us. And I am worried slightly that maybe this podcast won't go away. And my child or grandchild could maybe dig this up. I doubt it. I want to be clear on that. I doubt it.
What is the concern there? This is great content for them to listen to.
I guess not concern. I guess just if my oldest daughter is listening to this and curious what my headspace was a month before you were about to be born, I mostly spent it yelling about Superman 3 with my pal. That was my primary numero uno thing, was to talk to my friend about Superman 3.
Yeah. Some would say you're avoiding thinking about the greater responsibility.
Yep. No, really stuck to Clark Kent's issues when he goes back to Smallville and re-meets his high school love, and also Richard Pryor comes to town for reasons.
Because Richard Pryor was famous?
So, no need to bury the lead here. We watched Superman 3. We're now week 3 into our Christopher Reeve series. Watched. Neither of us have seen this movie before.
No. And I didn't do any research. I'm hoping you did, because I want to ask some questions. The first one being, what is this?
I did a little bit of research, and by little bit of research, I mean I read the Wikipedia.
And I'm not saying this is not. I don't think this is that a terrible movie. I think this is middling. But when I say what is this, I mean, how did we get to this movie? This is such a strange movie, and it's such a departure from the first 2 movies.
Yes.
I just am wondering what forces led us here.
So my understanding is so we're Superman 2, obviously. Superman 1 is a hit. Superman 2 also does very well. Everyone's kind of gone their separate. Those movies were made in quick succession. Now a couple of years have passed. At least a year or 2 has passed. And the Salkinds, our producer friends of this movie franchise, are like, yo, let's do another. Let's print some more Superman money, baby. It is time. Let's go. And Christopher Reeve, I believe at this point is like, no.
Wait, so when did the second one come out? 81 or 80?
Let's see, 80. It's
80.
Superman 79, or maybe 78. Superman 2 is 80. This is 83.
Okay, so it's been a minute. Okay.
And so they have to kind of coax Christopher Reeve back. I believe they gave him some control over the story, not as much as you'll have in 4.
Oof.
Which
well,
we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it.
That's true. That's true. What if it's secretly a masterpiece and everyone else is just crazy?
I'm ready for it. I hope that's the case. I will say.
I know. I want nothing more.
I will say I won't say this was a good movie that I liked. I will say I was like worried it was going to be a slog, and I did not find it unpleasant to watch.
No. I actually I don't think the tone is the problem. I don't think individual touches are the problem. The big problem with this movie is that it lacks any forward momentum whatsoever.
Nonsense. It is a plot. What plot? Like,
yes. No. It's just a series of vignettes. I mean, it's just like loosely collected elements.
Right.
So yeah. So I continue.
I will also say in like our current like superhero day and age where everything needs to like build on the previous one and like there has to be some sort of like world ending like big boss conflict. It is kind of charming, even though they don't quite nail it, that like, I don't know, Superman could just like fight Richard Pryor's computer, I guess. Yeah. I don't know what's at stake here exactly.
I was thinking the same thing. Can you imagine if for like I don't know what an example is, like Iron Man 2, they were like, what if the villain is Dave Chappelle and he's a computer programmer?
That's exactly pretty much what it would be. And also there's like no
it's like, oh, is he like, does he turn into a villain from the comics? It's like, no, it's just a guy. He's not from the comics. He's just a guy. He's a computer programmer, and he's funny.
Yeah, it's very popular comedian Richard Pryor, who I believe is cast in this movie. He has said he hates this movie, and did it. He made a very, like Marlon Brando, he made a very lucrative amount of money for like being in Superman 3. I believe $5 million in 1983. But he has said the movie is terrible and he only did it for money for drugs. He really liked drugs and needed money for drugs.
Great. Love it.
Let's see. So,
Christopher Reeves is like, I'm good.
He compared it, I guess, to James Bond, of like, I don't want to keep doing those. But they ring him back. I believe they were going to move forward and recast. But I learned that from another video, not from my own independent research. So, and by research, once again, I mean skimming Wikipedia. Margot Kidder is barely in this movie.
By the way, I thought she was on fire for the 5 minutes she's in it. I thought she was fantastic
because she's great. So the story here is that the Salkinds fired Richard Donner. Margot Kidder was very vocal about them sucking and being terrible. So she got a very she's in this movie 5 minutes at the beginning and at the end. Which is, the fact that she would do it at all is like kind of insulting, I think.
Right. It's a weird thing to come back just for a few minutes, I guess money.
A woman in Hollywood, of like, it reminds me of, George Lucas. Some of this might be apocryphal. I don't know for sure. But the story that I heard about the Star Wars reboots or the new Disney trilogy goes that George Lucas had dinner with Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher, and said, "Hey, I'm selling it. They're doing new ones. They would probably love to have you back, but if not, they're not going to like recast you or anything. They'll just kill you off somewhere in the meantime." Ford and Hamill were like, "I don't fucking know. I don't know if this is a good idea." But like Carrie Fisher was like, "I'm a fucking, middle-aged woman in Hollywood. I will take Disney's money." Like,
Yeah.
I'll take Disney's fucking money.
Give me the money.
Yeah.
God bless her.
And like, so I don't know, it is kind of like a, like an insultingly low tip in a restaurant. That said, Salkind, maybe Ilya, on the DVD commentary for Superman 3, says that he had no beef with Margot Kidder. They simply wanted to explore a different romantic option for Clark Kent in Lana Lang, which I would call bullshit. Would you like to hear the original premise for this movie?
Yes, because I have questions.
Treatment leaked in like 2007. This was written by Ilya Salkind. I'm just going to read directly from Wikipedia, as we do on this show. Let's see. In December 1980, producer Ilya Salkind wrote a treatment for this film that included Brainiac, Mr. Mitsapitlik. We're recording this less than a week after recording the Mr. Mitsapitlik episode of Smallville, and I have not gotten any better at pronouncing that very silly
That's
name.
why they didn't use it. No one could pronounce the fucking name.
And Supergirl. The treatment was released online in 2007. Mr. Mitsapitlik, portrayed in the outline, varies from his good-humored comic counterpart as he uses his abilities to cause serious harm. Dudley Moore was the top choice to play the role. Meanwhile, in the same treatment, Brainiac was from Kolu and had discovered Supergirl in the same way that Superman was found by the Kents. Brainiac is portrayed as the surrogate father to Supergirl and eventually fell in love with his quote-unquote daughter, who did not reciprocate his feelings.
What? Good. It's like a Donald Trump
yeah, right?
situation.
But Supergirl does not reciprocate Brainiac's feelings as she had fallen in love with Superman. Brainiac retaliates by using a personality machine to corrupt and manipulate Superman. The climax of the film would have seen Superman, Supergirl, Brainiac, Jimmy Olsen, and Lana Lang time travel to the Middle Ages for a final confrontation in the fiefdom taken over by Brainiac. After... We took a real wide swing there, and I went from like, man, this sounds crazy. They probably shouldn't have done this, to like, I want this real bad.
That's exactly. I was like, oh, good thing they didn't do that. And then you said time travels to the Middle Ages, and I was like, oh no, I need to see this.
I want Army of Darkness Superman. After defeating him and leaving him behind as a helpless serf, Superman and Supergirl would have either been married at either the end of Superman 3 or in Superman 4. The treatment was rejected by Warner Brothers Pictures as being too complex and too expensive to shoot, and Salkind additionally wanted to save the character of Supergirl for a solo film.
Aren't they cousins?
I mean... in Smallville and in the comics, but I don't assume anyone involved in any of these productions have at any point read a comic book.
That screenplay sounds more overstuffed than Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
And Batman v Superman doesn't even have time travel in it, which it should.
It would have been better.
Though actually it does technically through some Flash stuff.
Oh shit!
Fuck that movie. We are gonna have to do the Zack Snyder trilogy. I think we are gonna have to.
Oh. Like, I like Man of Steel somewhat, and Justice League, even his version, isn't the worst thing. It's just 5 hours fucking long. It's the thing. It's just
right. It's not good, and none of them are like good. Man, quick tangent. Quick tangent because it's relevant right now as we are recording this. That said, by the time we release it, other information may have come out. So this might be, so keep in mind, we are recording this 1/8/2023. But have you heard rumors of Superman director?
Refresh my memory. I probably have.
So James Gunn was writing it. It is now rumored that he will in fact be directing it. Which, yeah, I'm a little disappointed by. I think that's the most exciting Superman news of 2015, you know? Like,
I also, I don't know. I guess this is not that big a deal, but like hiring someone to run your studio and choose the directors and writers, and he's like, I know who should do it.
Right.
Me.
right.
Like in the Office when the Dwight names himself his own assistant.
yes. I think if Gunn helms a Superman movie, I think it will be a fine to good, but like I don't imagine a James Gunn Superman movie being especially interesting.
Right. I mean, obviously, we'll see what we get.
Right.
But and also, there's a long time between now and a movie getting made.
100%. The rumor of casting is I just sent you a link. Wolfgang Novogratz, who I saw in a little movie called Yes, God, Yes a couple years ago. Tall, handsome white guy, dark hair. It looks as much like a potential Superman as anybody else.
Yeah, he actually does. He's got kind of a Brandon Routh thing going on. 6'3". Okay.
Yeah. It's like it was funny, like, looking at this rumor on Reddit and people just being like, he does look like Superman. Like, yeah, no shit. Like, it's... Superman is just, like, generically handsome, dark-haired, tall. You can look like Superman.
Yeah. Tall, dark, handsome, yeah.
It's not that hard to be ripped from the pages.
Right. He's not the most specific looking.
Right. Just like we imagined. I guess that's also like my issue with I think the core problem of a new Superman movie, which is like, what else is there to truly do? I think the original movie kind of got it. That's Superman as a movie. What else is there a way to modernize it in a way that works? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I think so. I think but don't do the origin shit again. Don't do that. Do the Batman. Do what they did with the Batman. We already know all that shit. Just start somewhere near the beginning of his career, right?
Right.
And just give me some of that good Lois and Clark romantic tension.
I'd love that. I don't think it's incidental that like the most successful, I think inarguably the most successful, at least the longest running Superman adaptation is Smallville. And like, I almost think the guy who will become Superman is more interesting frequently on screen than Superman himself, if that makes sense.
Agreed. I mean, generally, if you read biographies, the time before the person hits it big is the most interesting part of the biography.
Right. Definitely.
Right. Like when they're on their way or when they're first starting out, like before they've like officially made it.
Right.
It's usually the juiciest part.
Oh man. Okay. So we went over the little potential story of Superman 3. Very little of that makes the movie.
They kept one thing I counted. They kept
Right.
bad Superman. Is
Right.
the only thing they kept.
Brainiac is also usually portrayed as like a computer thing. So maybe that is kind of in there somehow. So instead, they just went with Richard Pryor is here, and also a guy who's not Lex Luthor, but is basically Lex Luthor.
That was my question. Was like, did they write it as Lex Luthor, and then Gene Hackman didn't want to do it, and they're like, okay.
Of course, Gene Hackman wasn't gonna do it though.
I mean, they could not have made a character more like Lex Luthor, who's not Lex Luthor.
It's so fucking crazy. It's crazy. You just did Lex Luthor again.
And it's wild because I know he doesn't have like the greatest stable of supervillains like Batman does, but there's more variety than that in Superman's villain.
There's at least another one,
right? Like Brainiac. Brainiac is the one. Right. For some reason, they've never done it, but
it is kind of crazy they've never done it. I'd be shocked if that wasn't next.
I mean, that was going to be Burton's, right? Burton had
Brainiac. Right.
Yeah.
There's always almost Brainiac. Brainiac, though, we'll get into on Smallville, and I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I remember it being good.
So apparently here, according to the Wikipedia, Richard Pryor was mostly cast or brought on board because he was on The Tonight Show and had like talked about how much he liked Superman 2. And they were like, huh? You wanna, huh? And Richard Pryor was like, yes, I will take a lot of fucking money.
Oh, man. So did they get Richard Pryor and then write around him? They must have.
They must have.
Otherwise they don't write, just computer programmer as their villain.
Right. Because this is also like, it's the craziest thing about this movie is it's kind of a weird Richard Pryor slapstick movie that Superman is in sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's almost like Superman has like a B plot in this Richard Pryor movie.
And also the B plot has nothing to do with the Richard Pryor movie.
Nothing. It is completely independent. So I have the trailer here. I want to show this to you because I think the trailer, it has to get a little sweaty to like make more sense than the movie does. This is not quite the plot of the movie, and I think this would be a better movie.
When it's time for adventure, it's time for Superman. Alexander Salkind presents Christopher Reeve and Richard Pryor in Superman 3. This time, Richard Pryor has come to Metropolis.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And he's got something to say.
I'm pausing because no.
Yeah, that's not what happened.
No. He comes to Smallville. Well, I guess he's in Metropolis a little bit and then goes to Smallville. Whatever.
Sell. He's the best con man and the world's greatest computer genius.
Let me tell you something. I can't ski!
But then he falls for a scheme to turn the ultimate computer into the ultimate weapon.
Well, what will it do for me?
It will do anything you tell me to tell it to do.
A machine so powerful,
Baby! It's Daddy!
it can control the Earth.
No. Now, getting down to business.
Change the weather.
Know something? You're a genius.
And reprogram Superman.
Thought you'd never get here.
Well, I hope you don't expect me to save you, because I don't do that anymore.
He didn't die. I asked you to kill Superman, and you're telling me you couldn't even do that one simple thing.
All right, Webster, the game's over.
But only the man who pulled the switch on Superman
Oh, see, I'm not with them, Superman.
Could have fooled me, mister.
can pull the plug on Super Machine.
You're going to go down in history as the man who killed Superman.
No. Thank you, brother.
Superman 3.
Watch the trees.
This time is going to be the best time of all.
So a slightly more coherent version of the plot and the whole basically just arc of the movie.
I can't tell if I'm glad that trailers aren't like that anymore or if I'm sad that they're
I
not
do
like that
love
anymore.
that was like that is a great trailer voice. That is like
Yeah.
that
that's
would
the
kind
guy.
of carry over into the 90s and like, ooh, that's the good shit.
So why do you think they revealed the ending of the movie in the trailer? Do you think it's because they don't want Richard Pryor's fans to think he's a villain? They want to be like, oh, he's
I wonder.
kind of good.
Yeah, interest. That's really yeah, Richard Pryor is going to be Superman's friend.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting.
And the trailer does make it look like Richard Pryor and the bad guys create this weather machine, and then Superman's reacting to that, which is not quite what's going on in the movie. That kind of happens like an hour in.
Right. I will say I am slightly charmed by Superman fights like a big weird robot, a weather machine robot, is like some classic old comic book, funny book character Superman stuff.
Oh, there's a lot of funny book shit in there.
So this is Richard Lester, who of course shot, I mean, has director credit on Superman 2, but that is sort of a weird, marred, half Richard Donner like thing. Of course, we talked about last week. This is all Richard Lester. One Richard this time. And it is very funny that like 1 and 2, especially the first one, have this attitude of like creating Superman as this big mythic character. Really taking his, for lack of a better word, his status as just like a pop culture icon seriously. For lack of a better way to phrase it. Lester's vision of Superman is a little more just like a fucking funny book character for kids. Anyway, here we go.
Yeah. You get the feeling he was like, oh, good, we're getting Richard Pryor, then we can really make it funny.
Right. Which there are a few moments in this movie that didn't not make me laugh.
No, there are funny parts. There are certainly funny parts. Intentionally funny parts as well as unintentional.
Right. I'm trying to think if there's anything else interesting here before we get into the recap. Let's see. It was released June 17th, 1983. The budget was $39 million. It made $80.2 million at the box office. So obviously it was a pretty decent success. Should we get into the recap?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, I have one thing here. Frank Oz had a cameo as a surgeon, but was cut from the movie. Thumbs down. Thumbs down. Okay.
Give us the Oz cut.
Give us. So as before, this is I'm reading directly from the wiki. This is a much broader plot summary than we're used to for our Smallville episode, so we're gonna have to fill in a lot of gaps. Okay, so the Metropolis-based conglomerate Websco hires Gus Gorman, a talented computer programmer. In the beginning of the movie, we learn about Gus Gorman, who's of course Richard Pryor. He's down on his luck. I believe he gets kicked off of unemployment, but learns kind of immediately that he's good at computers, because that's how that works.
Yes. To say that this movie was made by people with a tenuous grasp of how computers work is something of an understatement.
Later in the movie, Richard Pryor is going to pull a scheme up against this conglomerate that we'll talk about in a moment. And at one point, an assistant or somebody is talking about how, like, back in the day, you used to be able to keep, like, record of all these transactions on paper and keep people accountable. But now it's all done by computers, and who can tell?
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's harder to get away with most things now in the digital age than it ever was then.
The paper was, yeah, exactly. Catch Me If You Can was all about paper stuff. Yeah. That scene is insane. So he's like in a programming class, right? And one of his classmates is asking the instructor, "Can I do this?" And he's like, "No, that's impossible." And then Richard Pryor's like, "Well, I just did it. Oh my gosh." Like by accident, like he accidentally did the code that the computer was incapable of doing because of his. Because he's just a natural. Right. He's a natural. He's a natural.
It is for really, it's referred to as a programming language, and that's kind of the closest comparison to it. It's not just something you can just beep boop beep boop 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 boop.
He was naturally good at computers.
That's how that works, because it's 1983. So Gus embezzles from his employer through what's quoted as salami slicing. They don't say that in the film, which brings him to the attention of CEO Ross Webster, who is not Lex Luthor. So what he does, this is the Office Space thing.
I was going to say that's my only knowledge of this movie before watching it was from Office Space, wherein they run this same scheme and they reference Superman 3.
Right. So the scheme is basically, the idea here is that the paychecks don't bother with like the rounded off cents. So those are all getting accumulated somewhere. So what Richard Pryor does is have all of that come to him, which... Right. Once again, would be very easy to track through a payroll.
especially since it's not like it's going into an account. They're cutting him checks.
Right.
He gets a check in the mail for like $80,000.
It's absolutely impossible to find out who's done this. So, and it was funny of like, yes, that is a major plot point in Office Space. Also, primarily my familiarity with Superman 3. I was kind of expecting it to be a bigger part of this movie.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Not just a little thing up front.
Although I never could. It makes sense that it's not, because I was always like, how is that a Superman movie?
They do spend a lot of time on it.
They do. But I'm like, is Superman battle the computers? Right. Oh, wait, that's exactly what happens in the movie.
So he's brought to the attention of CEO Ross Webster, who is not Lex Luthor, even though, yes, he is basically Lex Luthor.
The guy who plays him was a character actor. He was in the Magnificent Seven, the original Magnificent Seven.
Oh, no shit.
I think he was in Bullet. I think I also saw him in, he pops up. He pops up here and there.
Okay.
There is a great, actually really funny and intentionally funny moment when that character, what's his name?
It is sorry, I had it. Ross Webster,
the not Lex Luthor guy. He's basically like Mr. Burns, right? He's like up there, and he's like in his giant like office, and he's talking to one of his lieutenants, and they're talking about how someone has stolen money from them. One of the employees. They're basically talking about the Richard Pryor thing, and the Webster guy's like, oh yeah, he's so clever. He won't show it. There'll be no way to track this guy down. And then you hear the screeching of tires, and they look out the window down like 30 stories below in the parking lot. And Richard Pryor pulls up in a Lamborghini and like parks like not in a parking space and just like in the middle of the road and gets out of his car. It was pretty good. It was like a Simpsons.
It was good.
Moment.
I laughed at that as well. It's so funny. We've been talking about this movie for a little bit. Superman's in this movie, kind of. We've already. We'll get to him. So Webster is intrigued by Gus's potential to help him financially. I'm so interested here in Lester does something here that also drove me nuts in Superman 2, which is these long takes where it's so funny it's never really occurred to me why in theater there's that famous thing of like, don't turn your back to the audience. But like Lester like lets them. They'll fully like do these long takes on a big set, and like they'll have a full conversation facing away from the camera.
That was one of the first things I noted, was that compared to Donner, Donner's those movies moved.
Yes.
And I'm not just talking about story-wise. I'm talking about the directing here. This movie crawls. Like
absolutely.
The scenes, there's no energy to the scenes.
None.
It was especially noticeable to me when we got our first scene inside Perry White's office. Because in those first couple movies, the Day of the Planet's like a bustling,
yes,
filled with life, and in this one you can hear crickets.
Because the newspaper industry is dying
already in the 80s.
Yes.
I also wonder how much of that has to do with the score not being by John Williams, because the score in this is
right.
It's very sparse.
Yes. Good point. I didn't even notice that.
And also, I know you want to put your own spin on it, buddy, but just use the John Williams music. You know what I mean?
Just do it.
Just play the John Williams theme. Like they rarely use the theme in this movie, and when they do, it's not done with the same.
It's you didn't
gusto.
improve on it.
No.
You didn't make it better.
No.
Okay. So Webster is intrigued by Gus's potential to help him financially. Webster, his sister Vera, who was treated like the ugliest woman in the planet in this movie.
Oh, yeah. For laughs.
And Webster's girlfriend, Lorelei, blackmail Gus into helping him. Okay, so we move into, on the next paragraph, at the Daily Planet. So I guess we can cover essentially the title sequence, the intro, which is just
what the fuck was that?
Slapstick-a-palooza.
But it's not. There's no story function for that.
No, none.
Like, how would you describe? So basically, after the Richard Pryor opening bit at the unemployment office,
right?
We get the streets of New York. Oh, sorry, Metropolis.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a bunch of random slapstick bits, like people falling down and dogs getting loose, and Superman's not even involved for the first portion of it,
and doesn't like a lot of things going wrong in Metropolis of what a crazy, wonky, dangerous place Metropolis can be. Superman doesn't like help any of these people.
No, until the very end, the guy in the car
he helps one guy, but like also a bank robber gets away. A full cartoon bank robbery happens, and like, granted, no, it's more important that Superman save a guy from drowning in his car. A fire hydrant or something like is filling a car with water. He has to rip the roof off. Yeah, he's Superman. But like, and then there's a bank robber just ha away.
The problem mainly though is that none of that stuff is funny. And I don't say that in a cynical, you can't be funny in Superman. I think we're on the record as saying we liked the comedy in the first two. Give us more.
Right.
But it's just not, none of that stuff works. None of those bits land.
Agreed. There's one bit that I liked, which is Clark goes into the photo booth and changes into the Superman outfit, and you see the in the photo booth the strip comes out, and it's Clark, and he's ripping the shirt off, and then he's Superman, and he comes out, the picture roll comes out, and he rips off the Superman part of it and hands it to a kid, which I liked that. That's not quite a joke, fun. But I liked it.
No, that's fun.
I guess
I'm talking about the blind guy who's walking his dog, and then the dog gets away, and then like he grabs like some kind of construction gear that's clearly not a dog, but he's blind, so he thinks it's his dog. And he starts pushing this piece of equipment around, like, so stupid.
Like, the other two movies just did a space crawl. And you know what? Richard?
It worked better.
But this time is going to be the best time, Zach.
You listen to Preview Guy. You listen to him.
He would never lie to you.
No.
At the Daily Planet, Clark Kent convinces Perry White to let him and Jimmy Olsen visit Smallville for Clark's high school reunion. While fellow reporter and Clark's unrequited love interest, Lois Lane, leaves for Bermuda on vacation. Lois is just like, hi, I'm Lois Lane. Also, gotta go.
Yeah, see you next time. Maybe next time I'll be here.
Yeah. Anything to note in here aside from it's kind of bad?
I'm not sure if it's this scene or when they're driving to Smallville, but Clark is like, I haven't been back to Smallville since Mom died. And you're like, oh, you just killed Mama K off screen like that? Just one line of dialogue. No big deal. En route as Superman, Kent extinguishes a fire in a chemical plant containing unstable beltric acid, which produces corrosive vapor when superheated, which will maybe come back to play later. This scene is good, I think. I think it's... Well, yeah, it's fine. But no one there is surprised to see Superman.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh, it's you. Okay.
Well, get to work.
Yeah, obviously.
About time.
Why doesn't he just blow the fire out or like cover it with his cellophane wrappers that he can throw?
I really would have liked to see the return of the cellophane wrapper. I'm sure we joked. We recorded this Superman 2 episode weeks ago, and I'm sure I made a joke about wanting to see an episode around that in Smallville. But I'm back to it, and I want to see it.
What the origin of the cellophane wrapper thing?
Yes, do a whole episode. Just call the episode Cellophane.
It's not a boner. Like, what other bodily function can it like?
Just a real wet fart.
He accidentally covers Lex with cellophane.
What the fuck? Clark, what? Gotta go! Fucking stupid.
Oh, okay. You can cut the laughter down by like half.
Mostly out of shame.
So stupid. Oh, it wouldn't be as funny if they hadn't have done a Heat Vision boner episode. So it's like it's more real. You know what I mean?
Right. So I thought there was a fun thing in the chemical plant thing. I believe he like freezes a lake, and then he takes the lake and then he drops that over the chemical fire, which then makes it rain. It was fun. I liked it.
Yeah, but I was like, what about the environmental implications there? Like, fucking wildlife in the lake,
Yeah, right.
the ecosystem. We're just really just to save this chemical plant. You can tell I'm an animal person.
Yes.
Fuck you, Superman.
Hey, Superman's just here for the people. The animals,
Figure
fuck
out
'em.
another way to do it. What about Superdog?
At the reunion, Clark reunites with his childhood friend, Lana Lang, of course played by Annette O'Toole, Mama Kay on Smallville. I really was watching this movie kind of, Annette O'Toole, cutie. What a cutie.
Yeah.
But very struck by the amount of creation Smallville had to do to turn Lana Lang into a character, because she is nothing here.
Well, she has the one touch where she's like a little absent-minded, like
Yes.
and it's cute in a cute way, not
Right.
like she will be talking about one thing and think that, or someone will be talking about one thing and she'll think they're talking about something else.
Right,
and
right.
It's fun. That's a fun touch, but that's about it.
Right.
Actually, literally it. And she is a kid. Is that a character trait?
In 1983, yes. So childhood friend Lana Lang, a divorcee with a young son named Ricky. And I'm going to throw out there, is Ricky the worst child in all of cinema? Just the worst child. Superman, you're just in a slump. Oh, I fucking hate Ricky.
I mean, he's on the tournament bracket for worse, for sure.
He makes it past round one for sure.
It's okay to make fun of him because he's older than us. You know what I mean? So,
yes. Clark is harassed by Brad Wilson, his former bully and Lana's ex-boyfriend. We skip ahead to the picnic.
Well, I just want to say, yeah, I'm glad to see that the even in the movie world, much like in the show Smallville, the sociopathic douchebag element is still going strong in Smallville.
It's worth noting, we haven't explicitly said, like, this is the movie that takes place primarily in Smallville, which makes it the most appropriate movie for our podcast.
I was thinking about the scene at the reunion when they're dancing, and I was like, oh, how good would this be with Lifehouse playing over it?
There needs to be like a George Lucas like edit.
The Smallville edit?
Yes, to just make it fit in with let's see. I actually kind of enjoyed the reunion scene, I think.
Yeah.
Worth noting, I did not notice this. I noticed it from the Mr. Sunday Movies, did a video about Superman 3. But the picture of Clark Kent is Christopher Reeve's high school photo, not the actor who played.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I knew it was Christopher Reeves. Right. That's funny. Yeah, well, they probably should have just used him in the first place.
That is, in fact, what they should have done. Rather than take a guy, put him in prosthetics and a wig, and dub his voice over. Sometimes the simpler option is the better option. Anything else about the reunion? Clark goes back later and talks to Lana. And I don't know. I liked it. Later, while having
like I said, a lot of these individual scenes I like a lot. It's just there's nothing stringing them together.
100%. Later, while having a picnic with Lana, Superman saves an unconscious Ricky from being killed by a combine harvester.
I had an issue with this. They're having a picnic, and the boy, your best friend Ricky, wanders off with the dog, and then Lana starts changing. Something happened with the car. Something's leaking, and she's fixing it, distracted.
Right.
And then Clark hears the dog barking, and knows the boy's in trouble and about to get run over. So he like changes into Superman and then goes and saves him.
Right.
Like he should take a page out of the Tom Welling's book and just go rush over as himself and help the kid.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
You don't need to bring Superman into this, man.
No. Also, he saves the kid, and then where'd the dog go? Because the dog was right next to the kid. Did the dog get run over? But then it cuts to the dog later, and somehow the dog made it back. But
also, am I remembering this? Did he like just take a fucking nap in the middle of the fucking field?
Yeah, he was just sleeping.
Ricky, you little piece of shit. What a little piece of... What the fuck?
I forgot.
Hey, Ricky, grow the fuck up.
I don't think they follow up. I thought he like hit his head or
you think
he, like passed out.
Well, we didn't see anything. Like he's in the middle of a fucking cornfield.
He's napping in the cornfield, and these giant harvesters are about to run him over. The dog is barking an inch from his face to try to wake him up.
How long of a fucking nap did you take? The kid got fucking narcolepsy.
Also, it doesn't take long. Like they're like, "Hey, let's have a picnic," and they're like, "It's like a minute."
Right.
He like sprints a mile away into the cornfield and passes out.
Clark should, and you're absolutely right though. Clark should have pulled this one, because that is just, it's so much more complicated. The like Superman was flying overhead,
right? Like, I know it's a suspension of disbelief, but if Superman showed up in the middle of fucking nowhere and Clark was somehow gone, like, come on.
There is a fun bit of business though of Clark having missed Superman, and then he's just like, oh well, I see Superman all the time.
Oh, you know what? Christopher Reeve brings it. He brings it to this movie. He's not phoning it in.
No. Fully is bringing it. As good as he's ever been. He made a choice here, which seems obvious now, but I don't think was as much so then. He wanted to, for this movie, tone down the bumbling Clark. Because he's going to be in Smallville, where he grew up,
right.
So he can just be that third Clark Kent. There's still a little bit. He's still a little bit of the wholesome hometown boy,
right? But he's not a buffoon. Like he's not like bumbling.
Right.
I did notice a slight difference.
Yes, definitely.
He's like a normal dorky guy in this, as opposed to like a caricature of.
Right.
Of a dorky guy.
Right. Okay, so infuriated by Columbia's refusal to do business with him, Webster orders Gus to command Vulcan, an American weather satellite, to create a tornado to destroy Columbia's coffee crop, allowing Webster to corner the market. Gus travels to Smallville to use a Websco subsidiary to reprogram the satellite. We get a bit where Richard Pryor, comes into town, vaguely crosses paths with Clark Kent, and they just go their own ways.
Yeah, he bumps into Clark and really hurts himself.
Right.
Because Clark's so strong.
Right.
But real quick, before we get to that, Brian, we got to talk about this weather satellite.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what about it?
It was originally designed for, did they say like predicting weather or something like that?
I think that's right.
But somehow they just mentioned in one line of dialogue, and don't get into it, it could also be programmed to create weather.
Of course. Just like we have now.
Well, if you're going to do a sci-fi thing, like, I don't think you can do both. I think like either you have a machine that predicts the weather, which is fantastical and crazy, or one that can control it. I don't think one that can do both.
Just, we put the satellite up and like set it to predict.
Those are separate functions, very separate functions.
The United States can do anything it puts its mind to, Zach. Reagan is president, baby.
Oh my gosh.
Is Reagan president in 83? I don't think so.
I think he was. Yeah, he was. Yep.
Yeah, 81 to, yep. Okay. All right.
Okay, so weather satellite, Richard Pryor comes to town.
Right. Although Vulcan creates a devastating storm, Superman neutralizes it. Seeing Superman, which we don't see happen, it's worth noting.
I was going to say, what a great way to be cheap about the budget is to have Richard Pryor describe the action sequence.
But they still show some of it.
Right. So what they do, for those of you listening at home who didn't watch Superman 3, aka everyone listening.
Of course.
So Richard Pryor is reporting back to the not Lex Luthor guy about what happened. And so he describes Superman saving the day, and then occasionally we will cut to a shot of Superman saving the day, but it's like brief snippets.
Surely that was like a later budget cut, right? Like, ooh,
it had to have been. This was not a stylistic choice.
No. Unless it was like more Pryor. But like
maybe.
Why? But that can't be it, right? That can't be it.
No.
It's got to be like, sure, we don't have the Superman fights with fucking tornado money.
Yeah, we can do 3 of those shots.
Yeah. So seeing Superman as a threat to his plans, Webster orders Gus to fabricate kryptonite. Which, yes, they have to make a fake kryptonite because Superman was just going around telling everybody, like, don't fight. Hey, I'm allergic to kryptonite. Hey. Lois Lane, what up?
I'm allergic to kryptonite, but if you do hand me a random green rock, I will accept it.
I will accept it because I don't want to be rude. Gus uses Vulcan to locate and analyze Krypton's debris.
The satellite can do so.
It's incredible. Ronald Reagan is president. As one of the elements of kryptonite is unknown, he substitutes tar. Okay, Lana convinces Superman to appear at Ricky's birthday party. But Smallville turns it into a town celebration. It begins...
That's kind of fucked up of the town to do.
Right. It was kind of funny. Lana calls Clark and is like, hey, this is the worst. My little idiot son, my terrible little idiot son, has been saying that Superman's going to come to his birthday party. And if these kids come to his fucking birthday party and fucking Superman's not there, my little shit kid is going to get the absolute crap beaten out of him. They're literally going to throw him into a fucking combine. It's gonna, like, you don't understand the repercussions of this, Clark.
They're going to take him out to a field and have him get run over by a harvesting machinery.
It's going to be fucking brutal. Clark's like, all right, I think I can speak for Superman. He'll be there. Which, Clark, hey, rude.
Yeah, at least put on a show of like, well, let me make a call. I
mean, look, but let's say in a world where Clark Kent is not Superman, of course. Zach, I think it's fair to say we're pretty close friends, right?
Right.
What if I was like, I can speak for Zach, he'll be there. Not consult.
I would not appreciate that.
It would be kind of rude.
Let me see what Zach's schedule's like.
The people, of course, don't know that we actually are the same person.
Yes, we're incredible at voice work, and even when we talk over each other, it's still the same person. And you wear glasses, so that's the big difference. That's actually, if people really pay attention, that's the only difference. We both, as proven by our body swap episode, we both have equally large dicks.
Just gigantic dicks.
When we swapped bodies, we were both shocked and not shocked at how big our dicks were. We were like, "Oh my god, they're We have the same size giant.
So impressive. Lana convinces Superman to appear at Ricky's birthday party, but we smash cut Smallville, turning it into a town celebration. And what the fuck is Lana wearing here?
I didn't notice. What is she wearing?
It's like a powder blue, like little jacket, dress, and a little hat. Little powder blue hat.
Whatever.
It's 1983, that's for sure, in Smallville. I think Ricky looks like a little piece of shit too. I fucking hate this kid, man. Gus and Vera, disguised as army officers, give Superman the flawed kryptonite as an award, which is really underselling. A little military jeep pulls up. Richard Pryor in a general's like costume, like a Party City general costume, shows up, gives a nonsense speech that they all just let him do.
I was going to say, how long in real life do they let a belligerent man in a military garb like rush up and just rant about chemicals?
Just absolute nonsense. And then hands Superman a thing that looks awful like the thing that, kills him.
It literally just looks like kryptonite. And Superman's like, yeah, it's kind of a weird looking rock, but I'll take it.
I'm very allergic to peanuts. And it's sort of just like Richard Pryor has a very big jar of peanut butter. It's like, reach in, buddy. And I'm like, well, okay.
No, he opens, it would be like he opens what looks like a jar of peanut butter and says, reach your hand in here. And you aren't like, oh, is that almond butter? You don't even ask that question. You're like, I don't want to be rude. And you just stick your hand in the peanut butter.
Although it has no immediate effect, Superman becomes selfish and then commits petty acts of vandalism, such as...
Oh, yes, hold on.
This is good. This is the good stuff.
This is the best stretch of the movie by far.
Yes.
Bad Superman is basically like Dennis the Menace.
His first little piece of shit move is he flies to the Leaning Tower of Pisa, straightens it, and then we spend a couple of seconds with like a novelty like souvenir Leaning Tower of Pisa guy.
An Italian stereotype.
Who just fucking Super Mario, losing his fucking mind.
It's actually Chris Pratt playing him, oddly enough. Yeah, well, look, here's the thing. I don't think if Superman pushed the Leaning Tower of Pisa up straight, like everyone would be upset about it. I think people would be like, oh, he fixed it. Like some people would be upset, but I don't think it would be like, oh, Superman's gone bad. Can you believe what Superman did?
This fucking guy.
But that's not the first thing he does fucked up. The first thing he does is when he's at Lana's house.
Oh,
I think Ricky's down for a nap or some shit, taking another one of his fucking naps.
Right.
And it's just him and Lana. And does someone call him? And it's like, oh, yeah.
Someone calls Lana.
Yeah, it's like, hey, is Superman there? And she's like, yeah, he's still here.
Well, there's a truck hanging off the side of a bridge, and there's a guy in the cab. Superman, you better get over there.
Yeah, so she tells him about it, and this is right when Clark's starting to feel like bad Superman, and he's like, there's no rush or whatever. He's like, let's just sit here. And like basically he's putting the moves on her. And
right.
Then he kind of snaps out of it for a brief moment. And so he flies over there to help. And it's too late. The thing's already fallen and people are hurt. And you get real Johnny K vibes from like the police and the firemen there. They're like, if only you'd gotten here a little sooner. Like, geez, okay.
Yeah.
I can't be everywhere at once.
It's not easy to be. Like,
I can't stand to fly.
Yeah, like, what the fuck do you do when I'm not in fucking Smallville?
Exactly.
I'm a Metropolis-based Get your own fucking superhero.
Yeah. If there was, my job is to like help people adopt dogs. And if there was a superhuman person who did that with magic powers, but there's only one of them in the world, when he wasn't around, I would still adopt out the dogs. You know what I mean?
Right?
Like I would still, and if I failed to, I wouldn't be like, fuck, fucking super dog guy was here.
Look at that, huh? The other little Dennis the Menace shitheel move is he blows out the Olympic torch.
I like that.
I actually really, really like that one. He like the runners coming with the torch. He's gonna light it. The Olympics will begin, and Superman just gives a little.
I love the idea that bad Superman isn't really evil. He's just a shit.
Right.
He's like, he's a troll.
Right.
He's a troll.
Just with the torch, the runner is. I actually think it's very funny. The torch is out, he can't light the big thing, so he just mopes back down the stairs and it holds on for a second, and it's very funny.
It's great. It's great. I mean, if they could have just stretched that out a little longer.
Yes.
That whole him being bad.
Yes,
section.
There should have been more of that. The Mount Rushmore scene of Zod blasting himself onto Rushmore energy, and I would have liked more of it. Okay, so Gus asks Webster to build the world's most sophisticated supercomputer. The CEO agrees. If Gus creates an energy crisis by directing all oil tankers to the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, when the captain... Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to say something. Sorry.
I'll add right now. I'll jump right now. This is back about Bad Clark. I just remembered. I'm sorry. Did you notice that his cape and tights change color slightly when he's bad?
I love that.
No, it's a good look. It turns into like a darker red.
Right.
But there's no explanation for it. It's not like
no.
Did he already have like a darker cape in case he's like, maybe I'll be evil one day and
just
I'll
like ready to go. Just got to be ready to go.
Or did he go buy one? Like he's like, oh, hold on, before I start fucking shit up, I can't be. This is too bright. He's
Superman. He could figure it out. Like, yeah, I know I gotta go.
One of his powers is to just change things color. You didn't know that.
In Superman 2, when he goes into the crystal thing and he just shows up in his white shirt and pants.
I mean, that happens again, essentially.
Oh, God, you're right. God, this movie. When the captain of one oil tanker insists on maintaining his original course, Lorelei seduces Superman, persuading him to waylay the tanker and breach its double hull, causing an oil spill. This seduction scene is very interesting. It begins on, of course, Metropolis's famous Statue of Liberty.
Metropolis has a Statue of Liberty. Gotham has a Statue of Liberty.
They can't all be New York. And listen, I live in New York. I love New York. They can't all be New York. Chicago's a great city.
Yes.
So the villains decamp to the supercomputer location in Glen Canyon. They also Superman and Lorelei bone down big time, right?
Yeah, they bone off screen.
Big time boner town. Some real heat vision.
That's the first time in any of these movies that Superman's boned, isn't it? Oh no, he and Lois boned in part 2.
Right. Just with a ethically dubious forget-me kiss.
Yeah.
What's more ethically dubious? I don't know.
I mean, Smallville, there's some ethically dubious stuff too. But
Superman suffers a nervous breakdown and splits into two beings: the immoral, corrupted, dark Superman and the moral, mild-mannered Clark Kent. The two fight in a junkyard, with Clark eventually defeating his evil self.
Before we get to that moment, we get it's like Superman's like basically like Anchorman moment, like where he's like hit rock bottom and like drunk at the bar, and like there's a crowd watching him and he's leaving. He's like, "What are you looking at?"
And that's where we get he walks out of the bar. We get, "It's Ricky from Smallville. You're just in a slump, Superman." Oh.
Like
which they play over and over and over.
But he's so good in that scene.
It's so
Christopher
good.
Reeve.
It's so good. It's so good.
Does alcohol affect Superman?
It is I personally, I like the idea that Clark Kent can have a beer every now and again, you know? There is I believe in Superman 1, he says he doesn't drink. There is a scene in Superman and Lois, I believe in the first season, they're having like a party or something, and Clark at one point rolls his eyes and goes, "God, I wish I could get drunk." Or it's times like these when I wish I could get drunk.
Yeah.
So I think it changes from... I think in general, Superman cannot get drunk, but
yeah, I think that seems to be the vibe. Okay, so they have their big showdown. He becomes like, first of all, Clark emerges out of him in his glasses and work suit.
Yep.
Don't quite understand that. And then they have a big fight in a junkyard. Do you think that's a budget thing too? They're like, what's a cheap location? Like, and then like multiple times, evil Superman Dennis the Menace Superman tries to kill Clark by putting him in trash compactors. And I'm like, there's no tension here.
No.
Because we know it's not going to crush him. He's Superman.
Right. And sometimes you get a lot of these in superhero movies now, where it's just these like slugfests that are just time killers. Like they aren't anything.
Right. I mean, that was the big problem with Man of Steel. Well, one of many, but the biggest one was that last 20-minute is just him and Zod fighting and crashing into buildings, and it's like there's no tension there.
No. Yeah, it's fight scenes and action should still like move a plot forward. There should be character goals beyond beat this person up. If you want your movie to be good.
Right, and there have to be like consequences if they do get punched.
Right.
Or, which is why Superman's villains tend not to be just equally strong people. It's like
right.
Lex Luthor is going to beat him with a scheme, or
right.
Brainiac is going to manipulate people in some way or whatever.
Right.
So there's a weird moment during this fight with Clark Kent, and he says, what does he say to him? He's like, "Hey, well, Kent, you always wanted to fly. Now's your chance." What? First of all, he says, "Now's your chance," like he has a New York accent all of a sudden.
That's a Metropolis accent, to be clear.
Clark Kent always wanted to... Did Clark Kent always wanted to fly? Clark Kent is fucking Superman. Clark Kent can fly.
Well, according to Tom Welling, who has only played Clark Kent, he's never played Superman.
No, Brian, what is that line?
I have no fucking idea. How did nobody on set go, "This doesn't make any fucking sense"?
Right. It implies almost that Clark, when Superman is Clark Kent, he's actually switching personalities. Like he has multiple personality disorder, and the Clark Kent version doesn't know he can fly. That would make sense.
That's all right, James Gunn. If you are in fact, well, you are at least, James Gunn is definitely writing Superman. We don't know if he's directing, but definitely, I think to the new fresh Superman take should be a Incredible Hulk situation. Where when he hulks out, he becomes... Though I think that's Shazam.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie,
well,
but...
You know what I just remembered? James Gunn and Michael Rosenbaum are friends.
Fuck.
Wait, you know he'll be in the movie in a smaller role or something. But
Yeah.
just make him Lex Luthor, you coward.
Just do it, you fucking coward. Just do it. Just do it, coward.
And have Tom Welling be Superman. Just do it. Give us the Smallville.
Just give it.
11
Just give it to
movie.
us. Oh,
wait,
we're never getting
James Gunn is in charge of DC. Does that mean DC only movie stuff, or does he have the power to greenlight Smallville season 11?
I'm sure it's only movie stuff, but if we hope hard enough. Regaining his sanity, Superman repairs the damage he caused in the oil spill and heads west to deal with the villains. After defending himself from exploding rockets and an ASALM missile, ASALM missile, Superman confronts Webster, Vera, and Lorelei. The supercomputer identifies Superman's weakness and unleashes a beam of pure kryptonite. I want to take issue here. Webster at one point is like, this machine can find anyone's weakness. And I'm willing to bet a gun would do it 99.9% of the time.
That's literally what I wrote down. I was like, for most people, wouldn't that just be bullets or blunt force trauma?
It's just, you don't have to literally, you can just program a machine where when you press a button, a gun lights up.
This thing has two settings, Superman and people. But before we get to that scene, they start on top of the canyon, and there's four bad guys, including Richard Pryor, and the other three take like these balloon things. They float down, and Richard Pryor says he doesn't want to because I just don't believe a man can fly. Which is, of course, a play on the tagline for Superman 1, which is "You'll believe a man can fly."
I liked it. I didn't like it, but I love a Nietzsche line outside of Smallville.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a Nietzsche line, right?
It's absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Guilt-ridden and horrified by the notion of going down in history as the man who killed Superman, Gus destroys the kryptonite ray with a firefighter's axe. Superman escapes, but the computer... So this is obviously, like, cheap. It's cheap. It's just Superman and, like, a bunch of computer parts moving around. Oh! I do kind of like it in, like, a dopey, like, 1940s Superman serial kind of way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It does seem like something that you would see on Mystery Science Theater.
Yes. I liked it is a strong word. I was charmed by it. So the computer becomes self-aware, defending itself against Gus's attempts to disable it.
Brian, the computer becomes self-aware.
Yep.
It wants to live. Now we're like, it's so late in the game to be introducing artificial intelligence into this plot.
We need something to happen because let's be clear, not much has.
Like an artificial intelligent computer should be the whole movie plot. That's the villain.
Right. There's a lot of that of like, no, this probably should have just been the movie because like, I also want to be clear, like we're kind of like the wiki summary here is broad. We've simultaneously missed a lot and also absolutely nothing.
Right. Because there's nothing to miss because there's no plot.
Right. And normally, I want to be clear here. Normally, like there is no plot. I am using in like heavy quotes. It's normally like kind of a pedestrian criticism of things, right? It's
right. Yes. But here it is quite literal.
It's just very seriously, we are meandering. Until like, well, we're at about 2 hours. I guess the computer becomes fucking sentient and then fights Superman.
Yes, I've seen mumblecore films that are more tightly woven than this.
The computer transforms Vera into a cyborg. That That scene was terrifying. That is a terrifying shot.
That I could see that if like as being a kid that giving you nightmares. You know what I mean?
She gets like snapped back into the machine. She's like just stuck, and then it's sort of like a stop motiony like stitched. It has that kind of like artificially like stitched together look of like metal scraps like boom 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 pinning to her face, and like it's actually pretty scary.
And this is what I mean is like individual things. I don't mind that. That's like a fun, silly comic book thing,
right?
But it just needs to be something instead of just like a random throw in at the end of the movie.
Right. Which, so Vera becomes a cyborg that attacks her brother and Lorelei with beams of energy that immobilizes them, and then Superman just pushes her. Or the computer. She just gets put, and then we're done. We're done with that. Never. Okay, weird, spooky cyborg. No.
Superman's like, I can find things weaknesses too, and their weakness is getting shoved.
That's your kryptonite. So Superman returns with Beltric acid, which the supercomputer believes is not dangerous. The intense heat emitted by the supercomputer causes the acid to become volatile, destroying it. So the computer can't do the calculations that if it gets heated up, it will be a problem.
No. It's not in the programming. All it can do is everything else that it wants to do.
Superman leaves Webster and his cronies for the authorities and drops Gus off at a West Virginia coal mine, recommending him to the company as a computer programmer, which, I don't know about that, Superman.
Yeah. Well, first of all, yeah, just like he's a criminal, but he saved you, so you drop him. But I was thinking today, it's kind of like a little bit racist. Superman's like, doesn't know this guy. And he's like, he's a black guy. He probably needs a job. Let me go drop him off. Like, he doesn't act like Gus isn't like, oh, I'm sorry, I needed work or whatever.
Yeah,
Superman's
right.
just like, I'm going to drop you off at this coal mine and be like, give this man a job. I'm helping him.
Thanks, Superman. I'm a fucking supercomputer genius. I'll be fine. I have the gift.
Right, yeah. Don't drop me off at a coal mine.
Yeah.
Like the worst place to work.
Right.
And
Richard Pryor does some hamming here of
yes.
and
I do appreciate he does not accept the job and he just walks off.
Right. Right. As Clark, Superman visits Lana after she moves to Metropolis. A drunken Brad attacks Clark, believing he was proposing to Lana, but the reporter defeats him without revealing his secret identity. Lana is sad about having to pawn a diamond ring, and Clark is like, "Oh, I found this," which is weird. It's weird. Lana's
it's also the hugest fucking diamond you've ever seen in your life.
It's a
It's
wow.
like the size of a golf ball
Seriously.
on the ring.
The absolute biggest piece of cubic zirconium you've ever seen. Or realistically, for Superman 3's budget, glass.
Yes, yeah.
Lana's new job as Perry White's secretary surprises Lois Lane, who returns from her vacation with an article about corruption in Bermuda and has a newfound respect for Clark after reading his story. Before lunch with Lana, Superman restores the Leaning Tower of Pisa and flies into the sunrise for further adventures.
So there's a hint at where they maybe were going to go with 4. I know they didn't go there, but of like Clark, Lois, Lana, love triangle.
Right.
I want to fucking see that movie.
Right.
I want to see Christopher Reeve and Ed O'Toole and Margot Kidder. Oh, I want to see that movie so fucking bad.
I have not seen Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. What I can tell you is that Ed O'Toole is not in it.
Yes, I know. Was that the same shot at the end of the movie that they used in Superman 2?
It sure looked like it. It sure looked like it.
Really looked exactly the same.
Which, why not, baby?
Back then, you could get away with that. They
Definitely.
weren't watching it on home video.
So just looking for some other interesting potential stuff here. Like previous films, there's an extended edition that aired on ABC. The opening credits were in outer space, featuring the main Superman theme with slight differences. This is followed by a number of scenes, including additional dialogue, but not added into any of the official VHS, DVD, or Blu-ray cuts of the film. Interesting. I guess that was it. It was not critically well received.
Was it 30-something% on Rotten
30%,
Tomatoes?
It's 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. Leonard Maltin called it an appalling sequel that trashed everything that Superman was about for the sake of cheap laughs and co-starring role for Richard Pryor.
That's a bit much.
I wonder, though, at the time, like, we've now accepted that Superman 3 is we know it's one of the bad ones.
In terms of expectations going into that movie, and it's so far removed from the first two.
Right.
I can definitely see being like, what the fuck was that?
Fuck was that?
Yeah. But now you and I and the rest of the world have been overrun with just rote superhero nonsense that, like, when someone does something even that's not good but different, you're just like, oh, thank you.
Sort of charmed. Yeah. What if we put out Marvel just put out a movie that genuinely was just like a comedy, which is,
right,
guess what I would call this. We talked about it a little bit previously on the show, but Star Trek 4 does it well, right? Where Star Trek 4 was just a comedy movie, an 80s adventure comedy movie.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of maybe that's kind of Star Trek 4 would be after this, I believe. But there's a little bit of that vibe here, just much, 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 much less successfully.
Yes. Well, Star Trek 4 had a great plot.
It had a good,
very simple but effective plot
that moves.
They moved forward
constantly.
Each scene progressed the plot a little more.
Right. Yes.
Until the end.
And then all came together into a dramatic conclusion that made sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what are your broad thoughts overall? Your final thoughts on the movie?
It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
That's about where I am too. I really thought it was going to be a drag to watch, and it wasn't.
Yeah, it was not. There's enough, both intentional and unintentional touches that were interesting, at least.
Right.
I'm both looking forward to and dreading Quest for Peace. Is that?
I'm a little. I will say, Quest for Peace is the shortest of the Superman films at 90 minutes. And I'll watch any movie that's 90 minutes, but I'm a little oh no. That said, Margot Kidder is back in a more expanded role. Gene Hackman is back. I'm a little ready to have some fun with it. I don't know.
What year was it?
It would have been several years later. Is 80 Quest for Peace is 87.
Ooh,
much later.
All right, so they're all over it. They're all pretty old.
This was Superman 4 is extremely it's almost a getting the band back together movie, which is funny because looking at these movies now, I was born in 88. Looking at the Superman movies, it almost felt like, okay, 1 came out, then 2 came out, then 3 came out, then 4 came out.
Right.
They're all one series. And no, it's 1 and 2, 3, 4.
I mean, 4 wasn't even, it was Canon Films, wasn't it?
The Salkinds did sell off the rights to the Canon Group. And it is generally considered one of the worst films ever made.
Weird move to sell off the rights to fucking Superman.
Reboot.
It's
I guess But that wasn't a thing at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But they did. But it's funny that they were if they were considering doing the Bond thing, you'd think they would have just done that. But
that, maybe would have been something. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the decision there was. I don't know if like profits from if it was like diminishing returns on the box office that like, fuck, we can just get more selling this than a fourth movie would get us.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Which, considering this was also a big box office flop, may have been the case. For me, I think they go in direct, like, I like 1 the best. 2's a little bit diminishing returns. 3's diminishing returns from that.
I think I enjoyed 2 more than 1, but it's close.
I think that's a common. I think it's a some lists you see 1, some lists you see 2. I was laughing. There was on Reddit. They're doing a like daily, like, everybody vote. They have all the big Superman movies, and everybody votes to eliminate 1 each round, and then you see kind of which one survives. And everyone's joking like, it's just 1 and 2. Like, can we just vote on 1 and 2 now?
But what about? I mean, the Snyder head's got to be out there pulling for Man of Steel, probably.
That maybe I think the Snyder head's all like Justice League. That's their like, that's a real important picture. There's a fucking
Superman's barely in that.
I'm
movie.
with ya. Also, there's a black and white version on HBO Max.
Brian, I am not watching the black and white Justice League, so you can stop yourself right there. You can just stop yourself right there.
What a goober fucking like.
Oh.
I've scammed through it. It doesn't like look. It's not lit for it. It doesn't like.
No.
It adds nothing aside from like, this is a real movie, Mom.
This is what artists do, right? Unbelievable.
It's a comic book movie. Famously, like, a
color is very important.
Oh man. Speaking of things, I would maybe be interested in watching if we can find it. I haven't done this much research on it. There is a fan cut called Superman Redeemed, where someone took Superman 3 and 4, created kind of a new narrative from both of those movies, and cut it together. And it's apparently, from what I'm reading, pretty good. Now, I don't know if that means it's actually pretty good or if it's that internet thing of this project is interesting and I'm going to say it's pretty good,
Right. Like all director's cuts. Yeah.
Right.
I would be down to watch that. That sounds fun.
I think we should. I'm going to look for it. And if we can find it, I think we should watch it and see what happens.
Sweet. I love the idea that we're going to do that before the Donner cut. Just like, we're not doing the Donner cut, but we'll do the fan cut of 3 and 4.
There we go. I'm a little like, how truly different can the Donner cut be, especially when like it's not. There's something about like all of using like test footage and like screen test footage that makes it like it's not a real, and it uses an ending he wouldn't have used, so it's not even really a Donner cut.
No,
it's just an exercise. But hey, this has been the Talon Mix. We'll be back next week with Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. I'm Brian. That's Zach. Hey, go to the talonmix.show. We're on Discord. Leave a review. I should write down an outro. So I'm not just...
Just a memorized one? Yeah, something consistent.
So I'm not just... bibbidi-boo, bibbidi-boppidi-boo.
Maybe do some things for us. Maybe...
Please, so that we're not just shouting into a void. Please.
We're desperate. Please leave us reviews. We really appreciate them. We read them.
We do read them.
We do. Okay, is it time for me to ask
what's your question?
God the question?
Gods?
I want to know if in Superman 4, will Superman find peace?